Jeff Katz has taught and developed curriculum in machine learning, web development, and data engineering since 2015. 2015. Jeff has taught over 350 students to code. In 2019, he co-founded Jigsaw Labs, a part-time booth that trains students to become data engineers in 6 months. Today we're gonna be talking about building a modern data analytics stack with Jeff Katz. Welcome to the MLOps community meetup, Jeff. It's great to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me.
So, all right, should we get into this, man? I'm gonna pull your screen up onto the platform, and I'm gonna hand it over to you. Ben is gonna be like coding away with you. So if there's anything that you would like to ask Ben, feel free to jump in it. And now, yeah, let's just get after it.
Cool. So you can see my screen?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So basically what you want to do is just show like end to end of how to, pull data, which is really like click events on a website into Mixpanel, it's like a data analytics tool, which allows you to like see how people move through your funnel and what triggers or like lead to certain goals that you set. So for me, because I run a school, it's like applications. From there, like Mixpanel, you can do pretty good things with them. Like you can have these charts, and I can see what actions people take before they actually click the apply button, and then what they do afterwards. But if you want to do deeper analysis than that, we want to move our data into BigQuery. So to do that, we'll use an extract and load tool called Fivetran. There's a lot of these, as you probably know, like Meltano, Airbyte. And once the data is into BigQuery, then we'll use DBT to basically perform some feature engineering, build a data pipeline, and use BigQuery ML to make predictions, basically train a logistic regression model that predicts whether or not someone will click apply. So that's kind of like the flow. It's obviously a lot to get through. But yeah, we can just start at the beginning and show how we can do this.
Very cool. Is there anywhere that people can go to look at that code or to see some requirements for installing and setting up?
Well, I have like a number of resources. I didn't share, like any of like all the source code for the DBT repository. I can put that online if people want to eventually follow along with that. But right now I don't have that. So for the Mixpanel component, essentially what you'll do is if you click on, go to Mixpanel, and then you probably just can Google for Mixpanel and then quick start. Then what you're looking for really is the JavaScript quick start. So the way that this works for me is because I'm not using React in my site, I just need the library to be on my web page. And the way that I do that is I just put that in the application. So there's like this application.html file that basically every other HTML file inherits from and has this in the heading. So as long as I put that there, then when users navigate throughout my site, they'll have the Mixpanel library loaded on as well. And what we want to do, if you go to my webpage, you can see that I have it on there. And because it's there, I have this Mixpanel module. And what you can do is it has a track function, right? And as long as you like call the track function, you can name kind of any event that you want and just pass that through as a string. So, here we are, just press return, right? This sends that event to Mixpanel. And if I click and like look at the events, eventually that will show up for me. All right. What you want to do is we want to associate like different click events, page views with that track function. So what I did, essentially at the top of each page, if you look for like Mixpanel, what I'm basically doing is just calling the track function. Okay. And then if I want to like have more details beyond that, you can add specific properties to it. So when someone just goes to this page, this JavaScript will just be run. It will call the Mixpanel.track, and I'll know that this event occurred. Like more useful than that, or a little bit more complicated, is I also wanted to, I didn't want to go through. I have a lot of free curriculum on my site. Let's see if I can close this. So I have a lot of free curriculum on my site, and I want click events when anyone clicks on any of this. And this is like an external collab. So, I wanted click events for each one of these, and I wanted to know which event, which lesson they were clicking on. So to do that, I'm just basically selecting all of the list elements. So if you go to JavaScript, you can do something like document.query selector, right? And we can select all the list elements on a page that have, and then the like anchor tags from there. This would be like query selector all. And so this selects, all of the anchor tags on the page. So all these list elements. And, from there, what we want to do is we want to say when any of them receive the click event, find the lesson, the specific A tag that was clicked, get the text of it, and then send that along as a click, as kind of what's tracked by Mixpanel. So this will say like, hey, basically create an event that says the user clicked, this lesson.
And for this level of Mixpanel integration, is this free, or is this like a paid service that you need to get?
This part I think is free, or it's like the lowest plan. So for this part is free. Where you have to eventually pay money, I found out the hard way, was to export the data, to use the API to export the data.
Got it. Okay. And so that what you were just showing is actually pretty robust, because as, for example, you add other sections to your website, or if you add another link, because you're just arbitrarily creating tags, as users click, they'll just start to populate into your API anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you use something like React, you can also hook into like React Router, and it React Router knows when you navigate to different URLs, and Mixpanel and these types of tools play pretty nicely so that you can just hook that into React Router, and you won't even have to do that amount of work of putting this on every page. You would have to write some custom stuff like this, but you wouldn't even have to probably put this on every single HTML page with something like React. You just hook into the React Router. So once we do that, right, we'll start to get these events. You can kind of see the different information that we get. So, I can see this is the page they viewed. I'm not sure if they, refreshed it or, this event. You can see kind of the timing of it. We can see the distinct ID. This is essentially a user ID that's just auto-generated for you. So that you can tell like the same user is taking certain actions. And there's more information than this that you can see tracked by Mixpanel. So and this is available through the API, which is nice. So once we kind of have that data, right, the next thing we want to do is move that data with Fivetran into BigQuery. So the way that you can do this is with Fivetran. Oh, hold on. Let me open up here. Login. Hopefully, I remember my login. Okay, cool. So with Fivetran, the idea is, you're always pulling. It's just piping, right? You're pulling data from one location to another. So I think there might be where you can see. What I'd like us to be able to see is like some of the list of connectors. So you can see with Fivetran that you can pull data from basically any of these or a lot of various like third-party tools. And these are like your connectors. And then ultimately you want to pull that data into a destination. So the destination would be your data warehouse. And you could do Snowflake, or you can do BigQuery, you can do Redshift. And it's set up to pull data from any of these kind of third-party sources, and then into BigQuery in my example. And it walks you through those steps, which is pretty nice as well. So what we can show maybe is, okay, so this, for instance, is like the Mixpanel one. I basically clicked on, search for Mixpanel in the list of connectors. And then over to the right, it tells you what the setup you need to perform is, right? So this destination schema is the name of the schema that will go into BigQuery, where all the data will live under in BigQuery, right? And then the API secret, it tells you lots of times where to see this in Mixpanel. So you can see it's telling me, go into my Mixpanel account, go to settings, then the personal settings page. And from there, you can get the API secret and you just copy and paste it into there. When you feel like you've completed these steps, right, then you can click save and test. This part will work. I'll probably get an error that I hit my rate limit with the export API. And that's just because I'm already hooked up via Mixpanel, and it's already piping in data to BigQuery. If you guys want to see kind of like how that works, let's go to a different account that's just warehouse. And if I click on this, you can see the logs, and you can see that it's pulling, it's just hitting the Mixpanel API. And then you can specify what tables you want to create from that JSON. And then if you look at, let's see, this, like here's the ERD, which is pretty nice. You can see that, okay, these are all the tables that is creating. Let's try to make this bigger.
Did you create this, or did Mixpanel create this for you? I mean, Fivetran create this for you?
Fivetran creates this for you.
Very cool.
Right. So this is like what's very like easy about this is that this is all set up, right? They have pre-built this for various APIs. And most, if you use Stitch or Meltano, they do the same thing, right? They'll build out similar tables, and you just kind of like look at the ERD or explore the tables, and you can see how they're related. So for me, kind of the most relevant is this event data. You can see that it's given a Fivetran ID. It's given a distinct ID, which points to is essentially the user ID. This is the name of the event, and this is the time that the event occurs. So this, this is kind of one part is setting up the connector. The other part is so you can see, right, the reason why this broke was Mixpanel has rate limited this connector. The rate limited will be renewed in 1 hour, right? So that's kind of one step, is connecting the source. The other one is to connect the destination. It's the same. It's similar in that Mixpanel walks you through the steps. Let me see if I can move. Okay, let's look at edit. If you go to edit connection details, you can see like over to the right that it tells you how you perform each of these steps. So, you know, go to Google Cloud. We can do that. And go to your projects list. So just click on here. And I want to make sure I'm in the right account. Right. And then you want to create a new project. So this would be, you know, MLOps project. Right. And it creates a unique, actually, I think we're good. So if this already existed, it would create a new one, like a unique name for me. All right. And then we can select the project. And then you can see that you get various like resources under this project. And then for us, the one that we care about is BigQuery. And essentially what we need to do is we need to allow Mixpanel to access this BigQuery namespace. So again, like Fivetran, sorry, I keep saying Mixpanel, but Fivetran. So it tells us how to do that. You know, what it does is it creates a Fivetran account that can access, or really like a Google service account that can access your resource. You have to still give it that access. And the way that you do that is, you know, we'd have to, we can go through this if you want. You add the IAM permissions. So I would just look for, let's go to Google Cloud Platform over here. We should see something called like IAM. And then we need to add a new user here. And so here under the principal, this is where we'll need to connect what Fivetran specified, right? So I have to put this and give this person permission to access my Google BigQuery account. And you can see, you know, here I'm specifying that's the permission I'm giving it. So add this, and then we'll select a role. We'll just copy and paste the role they said. So it's BigQuery user. And that's it. Yeah, this is all optional. So we're okay there. And then finally, you know, complete this. So we'd finish by doing, again, the save and test. So here, you know, it already created this Google service account for us kind of when we got to this page. We gave it permission to access our specific, you know, BigQuery resource. Then we'll do save and test. I'm not sure if we can add a second one under this account, but we'll see. And what's nice, right, is like before you start piping data, it will give you the green light or not. Cool. So this is, you know, like a new destination that we set up. So, you know, when this thing eventually, you know, completes the sync, and it can take like hours, especially because Mixpanel is rate limited, right? So that means that maybe they'll only let you pipe in, I don't know how many events per hour. But eventually this is loaded into your BigQuery database. So we can look and see how that's loaded in with a different one of my projects.
While you're loading that in, we actually have another question, which is Fivetran's Mixpanel table schema unique to each user's connection, or is it standard to all Fivetran/Mixpanel connections?
Yeah, it's standard to all Fivetran Mixpanel connections. So they do this for basically each individual service that they set up a connector for. All right, so let's take a look at the kind of data that you can see. So I created this Fivetran Mixpanel BigQuery instance before, before this lesson. And this, right here, this is like a schema, essentially. All right, no, this is the database, and then each of these are various schemas. They're called data sources in Google Cloud, but I think of them just as different schemas. And the name of the schema that I put that like namespace when I set up the Mixpanel connection. The name I just specified was Mixpanel. So the data is loaded in here. It only loaded in the event data. You can specify in Fivetran if you want, like under the connection, right? Here you can specify which tables you want loaded in there. Because say like if I just do events, then that means that this will, I'm getting the data that I want faster as opposed to running into these rate limits. So this is really what I needed, was like this event stuff, and then you can query this data. You can see that, all I did was I just clicked on the query button, and it kind of pre-populated a query for me a little bit. We'll say like limit 100, we'll do select all, and then we'll run. And we can view the results either like kind of this in this table format or in JSON format. And for me, what we care about is we care about the distinct ID, we care about the name of the event, and we care about the time. And let's just select run. All right, so this is the name of the event. This is, the time of the event occurred, and then this is, the user. So from here, what we want to do is we want to perform some feature engineering so that we can train an ML model. For me, I'm not sure if I can write the SQL from scratch, but let's see. What we want to do is select the name and the distinct ID. And from this table, so the table is, right, Fivetran Mixpanel is the name of the project. Mixpanel is the name of the data set, and then event is the name of the table. And we want to group by, so what I really want to do is like create features where I have a user ID, I have the a separate column for each one of these events. They clicked on free curriculum, they clicked on the homepage, they clicked on like the About Us page. So maybe I'll have a separate column for each one of those events, the number of times they clicked on each one of those events, and then I want to have like whether or not they clicked on the apply button. All right. So to do that, we'll need a group by distinct ID, which, remember, that's our user ID. And essentially what we want to do is have like a case when statement. So this will be, case when the name is something like free curriculum, then we'll have 1, else we'll have 0, end. And we can sum this up. Let's say this will be as like free curriculum count. Group by the distinct ID. Yes, select distinct ID, comma that. Let's see that. And let's just do limit 100. And we'll kind of create various columns like that. Okay, so you can see that this user, right, each one of these are unique now. And then we know that this user clicked on free curriculum, like 4 times, right? And this one clicked on it 8 times. Now let's just call it free curriculum. And then we can do this for the different events. So let me see again, this Mixpanel track. We have free curriculum. We have clicked apply. So that's our target, right? So here I don't want to sum it, right? Because I don't actually care if they click apply like 10 times. I just care if they click on it once or not. So we'll use a max here. So if it's 1, if any of them are 1, then the max will be 1. If all of them are 0, then the max is 0, right? And then we'll do that. All right, cool. So yeah, most people obviously are not clicking on apply, but let's make sure some do. So let's say where apply equals 1, limit 100. Oops, sorry about that. Select all from group by where, because this, I might have to do having because this is based on an aggregate. I might be breaking it. Selected.
I think you'll need to probably use like $2 or whatever the syntax is for the third column that you're selecting.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I don't know the exact BigQuery.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I actually haven't used BigQuery a ton either. So let's assume that we are getting our data for now. And so we have this free curriculum. I just want to cheat a little bit and see some of the other features I was pulling out. For that, really where I store my queries is in DBT. DBT, it's used for like a number of different things. One is simply like, these queries are going to be useful for multiple team members, not just one user. So it makes sense to have them in a shared repository and get them off of individual people's computers. Another reason why DBT is useful is like these queries can get pretty long. And so you want to segment them, break them up into different files, just like you would a normal code base. And finally, with DBT, one query can depend on another. So for instance, here what I'm doing is first I'm kind of selecting out these features of user events. Then I'm splitting this into a training and test data set from this previous table that we created. Then we're training a model, then we're making predictions. So, there's a sequence, and that's pretty common in SQL, where, you'll create one table that maybe relies on another and so on. In DBT, allows you to code in dependencies to basically specify that, hey, I'm selecting or creating this table from a select statement based on this table. So if you were going to generate my training data, you better first kind of repopulate my user events table. All right. So because DBT is smart enough to know about dependencies in your table, it creates a pipeline from them and says, if we're going to, update this table and maybe perform transformations to create a new table, we better first create the table that it depends on. So we can see that in action. Let me try to log in and just hope. Cool. All right. So I have a few different projects. The project we'll be using is Mixpanel ML. In order, what we need to do, like DBT directly connects to your data warehouse. So, for instance, I think we could do something like, select all from, remember in my data warehouse, this was just called like Mixpanel.event. Then we can preview and see. I'm using DBT Cloud, by the way. There is a way to use like DBT Core, which doesn't give you this nice user interface, but it's also, right now I'm on a free version of DBT Cloud, but eventually I'd have to pay for it. If you use it on your desktop, it's not as nice of an interface, but it's free. So you can see that I'm hooked directly into my my data warehouse with BigQuery. So the way that you do that is, again, like DBT does a good job of walking you through it. Let's see. I think that we can go to account settings, and then here you can see, these are my various projects, and this is the repository. This, you saw the code base that we're working in with DBT, and that hooks up to, and you can specify, your own kind of GitHub or GitLab. That way you can store that data, store the code there, and different team members can work off of the same code. Here also we have the connection. So this is where I had to connect DBT to BigQuery, similarly to how I did this, with Fivetran, right? So here, I'm sharing a little too much, but here we have the Fivetran Mixpanel. This is the project ID. So this is coming from here, okay? And then I have to do something similar where I create an IAM user that has permissions to, that's basically giving DBT permissions to access my BigQuery instance. If you go to, DBT has a nice guide on this. You just type like setting up, I guess. I Googled DBT BigQuery tutorial. And then if you go to setting up, towards the bottom here, they tell you how to do that, right? Go to the BigQuery credentials wizard, and fill this out. So this is, what API are we using? BigQuery API. What data are we using? This isn't, here we're not accessing like Google information or Google user data. This is data belong to our own application. And then click next here. Select an API. We already did that. Sorry, I'm not using one of them. Now we can click next. Service account name. Remember Fivetran created a service account for us. They generated one for us. For us, we'll have to type in one, so we can call this DBT user, and then it creates a service account ID. We'll do create and continue. And now we have to give it certain permissions on our database. I can't remember what they are, so I always just look. So BigQuery, we'll just copy these. This is BigQuery job user, add another one. BigQuery user. And this one, add another one. This is BigQuery data editor. All right, and then we can click continue. So this service account now has access to BigQuery, but we need, we kind of need to hook this up with DBT. So the way we can do this is, so here is, I believe the service, yeah, here it is, DB2 user. And from here we want to create, I think it's just create credentials. Yeah. And it might have to do this. Let's see if I can do keys. Server account keys, add key, create new key and here it is. And now it's with JSON. When you create this will download a JSON file to your computer that has basically the relevant, all the key value pairs about, who you are, what the secret key is, and things like that. And what's nice is that DBT has like a form where you literally just take this and upload it, like drag and drop or select it from your computer. And from doing that, it establishes the connection. All right. So if you look at the DBT code base, right, what you can see is, right, so we just talked about the fact that, we're able to kind of query my Google Cloud directly from DBT. We set that up. And essentially what I'm doing there is, this is what we started to do in BigQuery, right? So I'm grouping by the distinct ID, and I'm splitting out each event into its own column, and then counting up the number of times that it occurs. Visited homepage, how much did this occur for this user? Free curriculum. Here, I'm using starts with the name clicked. Remember, the reason why I'm doing that is because remember that when I attached events to each one of these, I said, okay, do clicked followed by the lesson text. So what I'm really doing in that BigQuery is I'm saying, hey, just count up in general whenever someone actually clicks on some of the free curriculum. Okay? So we have, when they visit these pages, and here when they click on any of the curriculum. So these three are all features. This I'm just using, I guess, to see that I am grouping properly. And then I'm getting this from, you'll see in a second, from this above CTE, group by the distinct ID, and then select all from this CTE. So here what I'm doing is, I have some old events in my database, like at one point I had sign up instead of like clicked apply. And I guess I'm not actually sure where that sign up thing came from. Maybe it was clicking applications, maybe it was something else. So instead, so basically I'm just filtering out for specific events. So this is just a where clause. So I'm saying, hey, I have all these events in my database. The ones I care about, that I trust, are those that have those clicked events, right? Anyone clicking on the curriculum, or these 3 pages. And then you can, if you preview this just performs a select statement. But if you do, and this just, shows you the results, right? And there are some people applying. And then if you want to create a new table from this, or create a view, right, that you can now kind of store in BigQuery, then you call DBT run. All right. So here I'm just saying DBT run. If I wanted to create all these models, I would leave this out. Here I'm just saying, okay, just create the user events model for now. DBT refers to these as models. And I'll show you what this does in DBT in a second. So we click return. We basically see, can it perform this? There is a hook this is not standard in DBT. I think we'll get to what's going on here. But if you click on the details, this is the model that we generated. Down here, you can see this is the SQL that was performed. All right, create or replace a view in Fivetran Mixpanel, right? That's our project. It creates a schema for you, like for each user. This way that you're kind of segmented off from like the what DBT refers to as like the production schema. So here it's just DBT Jigsaw Labs student. That's the username, the user events table. Notice that we didn't call this. Nowhere do we specify user events here. DBT generates the name of the table from the name of the file. Okay. And the other thing, let's pull this up again. The other thing you can see is it's creating a table from your select statement, right? So even though we didn't say, hey, create a view from this, it creates basically the end result, your last select query. That will be, if you run a model, it will generate a view of that name with that data. Okay, so we can see that if we go to BigQuery and look at user events, and just do like, limit 100. So this should actually be in here, right? Let's just, can I click on this? And then click on query and a new tab. So select all from Fivetran Mixpanel. It's my project. This is the schema that DBT created for me. This is the table, right, which matched to the name of the file. And then we'll click run. And we'll see the results. Okay, so these are my features, right? And then this is the label. And this is junk, kind of like we're not going to use the user ID to make any kind of prediction. So the next thing that we can do is, just to see how Google BigQuery ML works, we have features. We can just start to get this to work here directly in the editor. So let's take a look at that. I think I have, so, BigQuery ML also has some like nice little tutorials. Here, I'm just BigQuery ML docs, linear regression tutorial. We won't be using linear regression because there's a classification problem, but otherwise we can kind of follow along. So what we need is, remember it says create a data set. Remember, data set is just a schema. We already have a schema, so I think we're okay there. And then we need to create or replace a model. So let's just copy this data for now, or this code for now. Make this a little bigger. So, okay. So if you focus, there's kind of 2 steps to here. Here you're kind of creating a model, right? And you're specifying what kind of model it is. We'll get to that more in a second. Here is the input data that you're feeding into the model to start training. All right. So, if you've worked with ML, you have this model, but it doesn't know anything about the world. So you have to feed it data, feed it these different features, and also feed it the label, meaning, okay, did someone click apply? Did they not click apply? And from there, it will say, okay, the more someone clicks on curriculum, the more likely they are to click apply, or et cetera. So right here, what we want to do is we want to feed specific columns into our ML model. So do that with Fivetran. Just copy this here. And we don't care about, this is weird. Select all from Fivetran Mixpanel. These are events. Let's just do limit 100 just to see how we're doing. And right, what we can remember is we don't want to select all columns because we don't care about the distinct ID. Here we go. All right. So here's our results, right? We want to move out the distinct ID. So we'll just do homepage, free curriculum, curriculum clicks, and label. So let's just select them. Homepage, free curriculum, curriculum, clicks, and label. All right, I spelled them correctly. And now let's go back to the documentation real fast. What we want, this is the data we want to feed into the model. Now we're ready to actually create the model. So we can do that with this create or replace model. This is the namespace, right? So for us, we'll just create it under DBT Jigsaw Labs student. This is the name of the model, right? It's like creating a table. So we want to create or replace a new model. So this will be MLOps model. All right, let's call this like clicked apply. Right, and then we need to say the model type. So let's say logistic regression. And now this part, when you're training a machine learning model, you basically separate your columns into 2 categories. Whether are they inputs or that we're going to use to make the prediction, or are they the column we're trying to predict itself, meaning our target. So the column we're trying to predict is the label. So we'll just pass that here. All right. And now let's scroll this down so you can kind of see what we're doing. So we are saying create or replace this model under this schema. So this is the name of the model. This is the kind of model, right? The machine learning algorithm we want to use. This is, we have these different columns we're feeding into it, and we want you to predict the label. The label, I think, when I generated this user events thing, I said rename the column as label. I think for the apply column as label. I think for logistic regression, you may have to do that in BigQuery, but you don't have to do it for all the different kinds of models. You can just specify the column name like apply or whatever it was naturally. Then we click run, and it should start training the model. So, what's kind of nice is if you kind of think about, we talked about like the benefits of DBT. You can use, we used Google ML like directly through the console, but you can use a plugin to perform this step in DBT. And a benefit of that is, it's like, if you want to train the model, first, you should do these prerequisites, right? You should first kind of coerce the data. If there's new data, you can split the data into training and test set. You can then train the model and then make the predictions. So, that concept of, pipeline obviously still makes a lot of sense here. And you can use DBT to take advantage of it. Let's see how our model is doing. Oh, it worked. just sorry for the suspense. This model is not going to be very good. It's only like three features, and we spent very little time thinking about it. So, sorry to disappoint. But the next thing that we can do is I just want to show you how you can make predictions with it. I want to go back to my, let's just keep going down in here. So this is, I think further down, here's evaluate your model. That's kind of like seeing how accurate it is. But we'll get a sense of how inaccurate it is if we actually like perform a prediction. So again, here's how you can predict. Here you reference your model name, and then this is the input data, right? Like this would be your test set data, or your actual production data where you'd be making a prediction on. So let's just copy and paste this over, and we can, I guess, just make a new query. So here, what we want to do is here's our model. Our model is Fivetran Mixpanel. And then under here, we have created a new model called, I think, the clicked apply model. Right? Then here is where we specify the data that we're feeding in, right? What data are we making predictions on? So for this is going to be we could have split this into, we'll just predict on our training data for now. So that will be DBT Jigsaw Labs student. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. This should be under my DBT Jigsaw Labs clicked applied model. And then here, this should also be selecting data from DBT Jigsaw Labs student. And then this is under, I think it'll be fine. We'll find out. And then this is my create user events, right? This is the data that we counted up, how often they clicked on each page. And now finally we can, oops, I think I deleted a little too much. Yeah. So finally, so this is we're selecting all the results, like all the predictions and everything from making predictions of the model that we previously trained. And then we're going to select, and we're feeding in this data. And then we want to, I'm missing one more thing. Yeah, we don't need this. This might work. Let me just look at the thing one more time. Select all from, this model. And then we need to pipe this in. And then we need another parentheses around the model. So that's what I'm missing. So we just need one more parentheses that points to this, right? And now we should, we'll just predict on our training data for now. And what you can see is, so this is kind of like our original data. Oh, did I leave in the distinct ID? I might have made a mistake with that model. And then here's the prediction of this is the likelihood, according to the model, of someone having clicked on a 1 versus a 0. Okay. So you can see that. I think one mistake, is that this distinct ID, I wonder if I fed the distinct ID into the model. I don't think I did, but it's possible. I wonder if it shows me. Oh, so you can see these different things, but I should not have fed the distinct ID into the model. I would have to look back at the query, and that's a reason to use DBT is, these types of things are stored. We're running out of time, so I just wanted to show you what you can do is here I'm doing, I'm using Google ML, but through a DBT package, all right? And the DBT package I'm using is called this DBT ML. So if you just Google for it, you can see what's involved here. And there's some initial setup, but then here, those steps of kind of create a model selected from this data, right? This is the same process that we saw over here, where we're creating a model, specifying the model type, specifying the input label columns, and then the data, our training data that we'll use for the model, right? So here we're saying, okay, we want to store this. We're gonna create a new model. Here's the model type. Here's a couple of hyperparameters, and then this is the input data here. And then from there, you can also use the library to make a prediction from that original model. Okay.
And the benefit here, Jeff, being that first of all, everything is parameterized and also everything is tracked and stored, as opposed to, for example, this sort of ad hoc model we built might be hard to find, might be like easy to lose track of the columns you used. When you're doing it through DBT, it's sort of all right there, very easy to kind of change and ensure quality for production.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing that's really nice is that it creates this like audit table for you. This package, that I showed, creates this audit table for you. So what that does is every time you train and make predictions on a model, or every time you train a model, it stores the data, right? It stores the cost of the model, and that way you can see how well your model performed as you vary it and change it, right? Or as the data changes. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Cool. I mean, other things I should just mention about DBT and Fivetran is that DBT has a scheduler and Fivetran has a scheduler. So, you can schedule Fivetran and kind of specify, Fivetran, like how often that you want to pull in your data. And then you can also, so here's the sync frequency. And then also with DBT, you can, here we're calling DBT run, and that would, go through all the steps, create all the models. But you can also kind of specify a command in DBT and say, hey, I want this to occur every hour, every day, or whatever.
Yeah, it's really nice that you can kind of run those independently. You can be syncing your data every day and training your model 4 times a day, or kind of vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions about this?
I don't think, as of yet, no. I think that we're looking pretty good. Perfect timing, too.
Yeah, this was awesome stuff, Jeff. This was very cool. I appreciate you coming on here and teaching us about this. I mean, I am ashamed to say it, but I did not know a lot of that, what you were showing us. So it's very cool. I was enthralled the whole time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Demetrius. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, what's nice about this, what was really cool about this stream in particular, is that a lot of the things that we bring on are sort of self-contained tools, and that's really powerful. But you kind of grabbed a bunch of really popular, robust, battle-tested tools that nobody's questioning whether or not DBT works. Nobody's questioning whether or not Google ML works. And so this was a almost free end-to-end tutorial of actually getting a system running, which I think is very appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. It is hard to kind of like navigate, obviously, like with these different tools. And then there's just so much overlap between the different tools that kind of figuring out the right combination to use can be, a little bit tricky. One thing that we didn't mention was just like a customer data platform, which is, Segment or like RudderStack. And ideally, but you can see, like, I didn't really need it. But before we could have, instead of attaching Mixpanel events to our website, have Segment pipe data to Mixpanel, as well as like any other kind of analytics platforms that we're interested in, like Google Analytics, things like that. So that was kind of like the one component people can look into to add. But other than that, this is pretty end-to-end pipeline.
Awesome. Sweet, man. Well, we're going to end it there. I really appreciate this. And hopefully everybody that is joining us, feel free to reach out to Jeff if you would like. He's on the community. I also know he is active on LinkedIn. And Yeah. Can we get more classes from you, Jeff?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been teaching ML or data engineering well, you'd have to sing the song again, I think, to really know how long, but for like 3 or 4 years. Before that, I was teaching web development. So there's a lot of lessons I have in my arsenal. So I'm happy to help out.
Totally.
Everybody check out Jigsaw
totally.
Labs.
Yep. That's it. Jigsaw Labs. Thanks again, Jeff.
All right.
We'll
Thanks,
see
guys.
y'all
Jeff.
later. Thank you everybody for joining us, and catch you on the next one.